Hey guys, alright, so I made a 40-minute voice note while I was walking the track the other day, right? Yeah, it turns out you can hear feck all besides my jacket. So I'm going to keep going, I'm going to just freestyle it again, eh? Righto, so Albany, right? I took my broken car apart, the broken car was still back at the house, I was depressed as buggery. Walking ages to get into town, this car part over my shoulder. So bloody having you staring into the sun. We went to, I don't know, I was sort of calling everyone along my walk and stuff like that. Came to the decision to, call Dad. And got to Albany, called my grandmother, she set me up at the pub, which was lovely, thank you, Rata. Then, called Dad while I sorted myself out with a charger and whatnot, eh? And, he booked me a ticket back home as soon as he could, which was about a week later. And the next day I fixed my car. And headed straight back up to Perth, where, sort of going through the motions of not seeing the kids and realising that I wouldn't see the kids again. That was really hard. Had like her friends call me up and say, Rory, don't do it. And I was like, I'm broken, man. I'm just broken, No, just needed to be around family and my friends again. It's been a very long time since I've seen them, years. In fact, no one actually met Spencer after he was born down in the South Island there. There was a year there where, unfortunately we left the country without anyone actually seeing him. Anyway, so I'm back up in Perth and hanging out with the boys again. That was choice. Cheers, Hugh. And sold my car the day before I left and stuff like that. But it was a week of chill out, if you know what I mean. That and a wee bit of partying. Just the moment of freedom I felt with those guys, because there was one day where we did really let loose, and I was standing in this beautiful sunshine walking down to the beach and see the horizon. The feeling of just the weight off my shoulders all of a sudden was definitely there. We went, just kept going into the night and had a bonfire and things like that. It was lovely. Anyway, so get on the plane home and all the rest, it's all COVID time, so there's no duty free, it's really not fun. And I'm busy, thinking about how I'm leaving the kids behind, because ultimately I was crying in the car park of bloody Fremantle. I don't know, it was my favourite suburb in Perth, actually. Love Freo. Crying to them, I couldn't tell them, of course not. It's brutal. It's brutal enough for me, imagine hearing it, ooh. Anyway, so I sit next to this lovely old guy in the plane, and I managed to ignore for half of the time, until he starts asking me about what I got up to, and I asked him what he did, and he was a train driver. Anyway, that sort of took my mind off stuff, that and the 2 red wines. Bloody airpoint say, came home and I found Erin, and she's lovely. And I found a tractor driving job, and that was good. It helped me through, and I started getting income and all the rest, and while I was still sort of finding my spot and doing battle with Deb over what had happened, and what we're going to do with the kids, and how she's going to get money. And even then, you know, I was still trying to be a good dad, like after the fact. Like I knew that she needed money, so that was on me, and I did that for her. I was like, you know, I didn't understand, you know, first time having been to go through the system and stuff like that. I thought, okay, well, IRD, if I keep paying them money, it shows that I'm a good dad and I'm giving them their money, they get what they get. They get what I give. Nah. So, you know, I had to chase that up because she was chasing me up, and I've given $500+ away and I don't know where it's gone. So she kept having to go at me, and I was like, oh, yeah, nah, man, nah. So turns out they kept it in Switzerland, but yeah, I don't know. No one could tell me where this $500 was. Like, you know, if it's just sitting in a bloody bank account accruing interest for you guys, well done. What a great bank, old IRD. Anyway, yeah. So I got, again, you know, coming up to the first Christmas away from the kids and all the rest, there's like, you know, absolute conflict about, you know, whether I'd even get to see them through Skype or something on that day. And yeah, obviously. So I was like, what the hell's going on? And I was ringing all the helplines and stuff like that, and it didn't help. Like, no one could really help, you know. No one could provide what I really needed, which was it's hard to pinpoint what it was. Maybe it was a few things, I don't know. I wanted my kids, definitely, you know. I think I just needed to give myself that time to grieve. And, you know, being by myself in my head in a little tractor, you know, or even if it was big, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But, you know, your thoughts are your own worst enemies sometimes, and if anyone really ever wants to sort of go chasing an answer, I really do advise Andy Stanley. He's a bit of a preacher, but he's very relevant to life, like, you know. So if you don't like the 3-letter G word, you know, I reckon he's always there, always watching at the same time, because there's just been too many coincidences in my life to not, like, you know, there's been the finger of God between me and death so many times. It's not funny. I've got some really cool stories, actually, but another time. So once I got back, you know, obviously that tractor job really depressed, and like I was fixing the sprinkler one day. Now they did the irrigation system for the Taupo district, and I was just elbow deep in shit, and sometimes shoulder deep in literal shit, because it was an irrigation system, you know. So it gets treasured to within an inch of its life, but it doesn't stop the fact that there's bloody nature running through that, you know. So you know, that just sort of like, what sort of job am I in, and that sort of stuff, you know. So I pretty much had to take that whole summer off. Let's go for a walk, you know, just a bit of a reset. And then I got picked up by Intergroup. Now it's not really all about, like, you know, my work history and stuff, but this is an explanation as to why, or, you know, why I've come to this rage room. It's just like, I've got another video up. Oh, well, if I chuck it up, I'll chuck it up shortly. But, you know, workplace injustice is huge. Like, they're all over the place, you know. The little guy is kept down by spite, greed, you know, or selfishness. You know, so sometimes, like, I don't know, here's a little nugget for you, you know. I always look at life like a game of snakes and ladders, you know, the old school snakes and ladders, where it was actually like more or less sins or social wrongdoings. That would be the snake. And then you know, your letters were all the good stuff. So, you know, it's like, you know, don't be spiteful. Chat, you're going to climb a ladder. Like, you know, that's that sort of stuff. It's a lot of the world is missing that these days. But, you know, you shouldn't hold people back either. And I think that's what a lot of employers do, to do their own benefits. But, I mean, it is what it is. You know, you can't change people either. You know, they have to be willing to learn for themselves. So, yeah, but look, it's so again, like Intergroup, you know, that it's in the other video too. Oh gosh, Intergroup, I don't care, that was 5 years ago. You can bloody suck an egg. You know, that was really hard, because I thought I was in a team that would sort of, you know, help me grow and things like that. Nah, unfortunately, you know, they had my back as long as I was making the money, and then, you know, the moment that I started asking for a wee bit more appreciation, or whether it was, you know, I don't know, maybe you just didn't do your job and train me up properly, or like I felt genuinely left behind there, because I was unable to obtain a Class 2 license, actually. You know, I'm epileptic, so I couldn't. So ultimately, I felt like I wasn't an asset anymore, you know, and I think it was actually spelt out to me at one point. It was like, look, there's nothing more we can give you at that time. Meanwhile, I'm seeing my mates around me that I introduced to the job, you know, climbing a ladder. And it just hurt, man. You know, it sort of caused a bit of spite between me and them, you know, and it's not ideal. But it's the truth. Now, I'm proud of these guys. Like, I'm proud of my mates. Yeah, say your name, because I want you to be famous too, bro. Love you, Mark. Love you, Dan. Yeah. Yeah, alright, so I'm back in Taupo, right? I'm working for Intergroup. And then, you know, I go and see the kids for the first time in bloody 2 years. Is the plane taking off? You know, and they're well aware of this. Like, I spelt it out to them many times. You know, when I'll be gone, when I'll be back, and stuff like that. And it came to a matter of like, oh, your leave. Well, if you apply for it now, then it's done, and we'll just do your leave without pay for the last week. I said, yeah, but in that time I'd accrued that leave. So yeah, cool, all right, sweet as. So I did it, and I'm near on the third week. You know, I sent this request through for the extra week. I get called up and saying it's a abandonment of employment. You know, shock to the system, considering I still have a couple of days left. You know, a couple of days left over in Aussie. Got to leave the kids behind again, you know, dealing with the psychotic ex. I promise you, anyone can tell you that. But anyway, yeah, look, it's just some of the challenges that I've been through. Look, and I mean, bottom line, and I think this is the point of like why I've done this, is that I want people to understand you've got to be aware of the people that you are around, or that you surround yourself with. Like, one thing I noticed in my small business course that I really wanted to pick up on was the fact that people have different personalities. And you got aggressive, passive aggressive, you do have neutral, got assertive, you know, but then you think deeper. If you come across someone who's like always assertive, or always demanding, or always, I don't know, there's something that's happened in their life where they need to sort of figure it out for themselves, you know. Yeah, you can't change that. I mean, try and teach the old dog new tricks. Best of luck, I've tried it. You know, and that's the point where you got to let go. And, you know, the people that matter will actually stay, and the people that don't will either pretend or bugger off. You just got to be aware of when they're pretending too. That, or if you genuinely feel like, you know, something more is upsetting you for some reason, I don't know, like, yeah, you got to dig deep and you ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Yeah, but that's how it goes. Anyway, I mean, I just managed to fit 40 minutes into 15, so I'm going to leave it there. But if you guys can relate, you guys want to talk to or address any of these issues, or like, I don't know, you got any questions, got any other stories, like, you know, where bloody your ex cleaned out your house, and bro, she even took my lawnmower and the chainsaw, and then within a week was asking me for money, and I was like, go sell my chainsaw, you dick, you know. How much more brutal could you get? You leave me with a broken car that's on axle stands. Oh, cheers for my toolbox, like, you know, luckily that was sort of too heavy to lift off the back of my work ute, thanks, you know, wouldn't have been surprised. Anyway, you know, it's the little stuff like that that's just like chipped away. And when you keep chipping away at a rock, you know, eventually there's nothing left to give. On the other side of that, you can decide whether you want to be a diamond, and you let that pressure really intensify, break through, because underneath, it's there. Just got to find what colour diamond you are. Cheers.